the only thing I'll say in defence of Deb Frecklington is that she did make it plain that she would say, and these are my words, I said them to Paul Murray the other night, that if the famous and the footballers can have a COVID plan, why can't the families of the frail, the people who are actually needing family support,
right,
why can't you build a COVID plan around those people? And so Deb Frecklington has said she'll follow the health advice, but she wants COVID plans for families. And I think that is a big difference between her and Annastacia Palaszczuk, and I think it's a sensible approach from Deb Frecklington. I'll say that much, Bronwyn.
Well, I agree with that. But the point is, it's got nothing to do with health advice. It's the politics of fear. And people are being absolutely terrified that if they open the borders, they'll be dead. And that is what Palaszczuk and indeed Daniel Andrews have continually tried to say, that it's somebody else's fault. Oh, I'm looking after you, I'm protecting you. When we know in each case that Palaszczuk could open the borders and there could be quite looking after the health of people, a good two-way trade between particularly New South Wales and Queensland. In the case of Daniel Andrews, it was his ineptitude, dare I say anything worse, which has got the death of 800 people on his hands. So fear has been a tremendous...
And possibly more,
Yes.
And possibly more, Bronwyn, if you take into account the research that has suggested that there's been a lot of other health and indeed self-harm incidents associated with the lockdown that multiplies the 800 COVID deaths by anything up to 4 or even more times. So Mark McGowan, the West Australian Premier, just back to him for a moment. This is the announcement he made. Let's just be clear. Let's just show you what Mark McGowan said earlier this afternoon.
We are now at the next step of our journey to safely transition from our hard border to a new controlled interstate border. The existing hard border exemption system will be removed and replaced with a controlled interstate border regime, effective from 12:01 a.m. on Saturday, November 14. Western Australia's new controlled interstate border will come into effect. However, we will be closely monitoring the situation over east, and if we need to delay this introduction of the controlled border, then we will.
Okay, they're going to have a certificate system, and if it's anything like what they've been doing between Queensland and New South Wales, you've got to fill in a form, you've got to get a pass, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you've got to tell them while you're there, where you've been, all this sort of stuff. I mean, much of the announcement today was almost like stopping anybody from New South Wales participating in the State of Origin football, which starts next week. Queenslanders and New South Welshmen can go to the State of Origin in South Australia. Now, get this, everybody can go to South Australia to watch the football next week. Queenslanders can come back from South Australia to watch the football the following week in Brisbane, but nobody from Sydney can come to the football. I mean, spare me. Carolee, I know you know not a lot about rugby league, but seriously, this is spin, and more spin from all of these political leaders, yours included.
Look, it is. And what I want to say is that what's really saddened me about this whole coronavirus thing, especially with the WA Labor Premier Mark McGowan, is the actual arrogance and smugness of these Labor premiers. You have to watch that language carefully. You know, the hard to the controlled border, if it stays the same, if, as I said earlier, we had less than 24 hours to go before it moved from stage 4 to stage 5, it's a control. Let me also be completely crystal clear here. Mark McGowan has taken every opportunity to whack the New South Wales government over the continued Ruby Princess event. He has not once in the last few months criticised Daniel Andrews or Annastacia Palaszczuk because they're also Labor premiers as well. There's been no negative. We've got, as I said, we've got one owner that owns our daily newspaper, our Sunday paper, all the community newspapers and a television station in this town. There has been nothing negative about it at all. And what you are beginning to hear on radio are this dreadful mental health. There are people that have tried 11 times to get across. Mark McGowan and also our police commissioner, who is very well respected, was very glib on radio the other day saying, no West Australian has ever been stopped leaving Western Australia. They were both picked up on it pretty rapidly because, yes, we are free to leave. However, You try and get back here, it is absolutely impossible.
Yep.
There are people that can't go for funerals, helping relatives, new births and things. It is a very, very punitive system, and you know there's a lot of mental health issues there. It's crazy.
It's